This anti-aircraft gun was built in the 1970s. The German army threw it away in 2010. It should be rusting in a depot somewhere. Forgotten, irrelevant, done. Instead, Russia spent millions of dollars developing a special weapon with on purpose, hunt it down and kill it. Wherever it hides in Ukraine, they hacked the factory that makes its ammunition. They sent assassins to kill the CEO of the company that builds its shells. They built a drone specifically programmed to find this gun by its radar signal and crash straight into it. All of this for a 50-year-old anti-aircraft gun that NATO threw in the trash. Why? What does this old machine do that terrifies Russia more than the Patriot, more than the F-16, more than anything the West has sent? That is exactly what this video is about. The story begins with a different confrontation. The first Gepards to arrive in Ukraine protected infantry and tanks from Russian alligators and Su-24s. This was a simpler time, because that was exactly what it was built for.
In terms of years, it is indeed old, but it works like a young one.
But then the Lancets appeared. This is not a missile and not classic artillery. This is a loitering munition, cheap and accurate. The operator sees the target on the screen in real time right up to the moment of impact. Dozens of pieces of Western hardware in Ukraine have been destroyed exactly this way. This is why the Gepards had to retreat, all the way into the deep defense. These crazy twin autocannons could have ended up out of work. But someone had the idea to try them against Shaheds, which had just appeared in the Russian arsenal at the time. Shaheds completely flipped this war on its head. Now we know they completely flipped the economics of any modern warfare. But in the beginning, nobody knew how to shoot down these cheap monsters carrying 50 kilograms of explosives, missiles, manpads. But these assets are many times more expensive than plastic with a propeller. The Ukrainian army almost faced a catastrophe, if it were not for the Gepard. It turned out to be a natural-born Shahed killer. First shift on duty, and one crew shoots down 10 targets in a single night.
2 or 3 bursts per target turned out to be enough.
This pile of plastic cost at least $500,000 when it was circling in the sky. Imagine the shock of the Russians, since they had built a massive factory just to produce these UAVs. How much did it cost to shoot them down?
To destroy one UAV at a distance of 3 kilometers, a maximum of 11 rounds is used.
The price of a single 35mm shell, depending on the type, ranges from $300 to $600. This allows for cheap shoot-downs. The shell has a self-destruction mechanism in case of a miss. This is great, because it allows the Gepard to operate near cities and critical infrastructure. But Swiss production turned out to be a problem. Switzerland banned all countries from selling its unique ammunition to Ukraine. What was that all about? Neutrality. But what were the Ukrainians supposed to do, considering that the Gepard cannot just use any 35mm ammunition? The modification that Ukraine received is very different from the previous ones in terms of its internal systems. First, the guns can fire FAPDS rounds, which have an effective range of up to 5 kilometers. Second, the onboard computer instantly calculates the trajectory, wind, temperature, and barrel wear. This saves ammunition and makes it extremely accurate. And most importantly, the reaction time from detection to firing is 4 seconds. That is why the Gepard can even shoot down cruise missiles.
Against a missile, you have mere seconds to shoot it down, and you have no room for error.
But without ammunition, speed and accuracy mean absolutely nothing. That is why the Rheinmetall company quickly built a production line for the necessary shells. The Gepard versus Shahed confrontation expanded in scale, becoming perhaps the main duel of this war. The stakes were as high as they get. First, the CEO of the company became target number 1 for the Russian intelligence services. They tried to assassinate him, and then they set his house on fire. Then, the ammunition plant was subjected to cyber attacks. Finally, the Russians created a modification of the Shahed that can locate a Gepard even deep in the rear. Recently, a passive radar homing head was discovered for the first time among the wreckage of a Shahed. It allows kamikaze drones to autonomously lock onto radio emission sources during flight. Such a unit converts a standard kamikaze drone into an analog of an anti-radiation missile. How does this threaten the Gepard? And how did the Ukrainians respond? Before we move on to the main part, revealing the new capabilities of the Gepard,
please subscribe to the Weapons of Victory channel and don't forget to leave a comment.
So, the Gepard has two whole radars. The first one rotates above the turret and constantly scans the surrounding sky. Its task is to spot the target. The second one is the tracking radar. It tracks the target and helps the onboard computer calculate the solution for an accurate shot. This is exactly why the Gepard is capable of shooting down even very small and fast targets. But not this time. The new Shahed basically says, "Here I am, look at me." Once it spots the target, the Gepard's radar essentially gives away its own position. The kamikaze drone finds it by its radiation and attacks immediately. The crew might not even have time to fire a shot. How can the Gepard protect itself? Turning on the search radar for only short periods of time to identify the direction of the target's movement is the simplest way. After that, the gunner or commander uses only optical and thermal imaging channels and a laser rangefinder. Does this affect accuracy? At close range, barely at all. But fog, rain, heavy clouds, smoke, or long distances, you get the picture. A blind Gepard effectively turns into a regular anti-aircraft gun. This is why the Ukrainians made a counter-move. They provide the Gepard crew with the exact coordinates of the target from other sources, transforming the old, fully autonomous system into an element of a modern, unified air defense network.
When you shoot down $1 million missile with a 35mm shell, there are no questions about its age.
You can learn how the 6 levels of Ukrainian air defense work from our separate video, and you will find out how the Gepard operates within this network right now. So a combined attack of UAVs and cruise missiles is underway, but the Gepard's radar is silent. However, its onboard computer is running, receiving real-time target data from a unified automated system where all data from all Ukrainian radars is aggregated. The crew only needs to turn on their optics and visually lock onto the target.
О, есть збиття. Есть. Збили.
If the crew does not trust the optics due to poor visibility, they turn on their tracking radar for literally a split second.
Є збиття, чувак.
It only takes 2 seconds to lock onto the target.
The onboard radar instantly refines the distance and speed. The computer adjusts the guns, and the Gepard fires a short burst. The radar is turned off immediately, and the Gepard relocates. As you can understand, this is a game of hide-and-seek with death. But that is the reality of modern warfare. A radar on an anti-aircraft system is a target. This is why the modern Skynex system operating in Ukraine has its radar positioned separately from the guns. The gun mounts are not self-propelled, they are transportable platforms. A Skynex battery consists of 4 35mm Oerlikon, a command post, and a radar station that performs initial target detection and guides the guns. This system was developed by Rheinmetall Air Defense. In Ukraine, they are used to protect airfields, critical infrastructure, and other vital assets. And at the end of 2025, Ukraine received the Sky Ranger 35, the son of the Gepard, or its much younger brother, since it also uses a Leopard 1 tank chassis. Although it was originally planned to be based on the Boxer APC's chassis, the Ukrainian army became the world's first combat operator of this system. Its thermal imaging sensor scans the sky 360 degrees without any radio emission, and the radar is only turned on when it is absolutely necessary. No Shahed can find the system by its signal, but the main feature of the new German systems is the ahead ammunition. This is not a high explosive shell, but 152 tungsten cylinders plus a small ejector charge. About 10 to 30 meters before the Shahed, the shell bursts open, and the tungsten cylinders turn the UAVs or missiles into a colander. Awesome. Just keep Switzerland away from them. Write in the comments if you would like a video about the Skynex or the Sky Ranger 35, or write your thoughts about this video. The way Russian army commanders treat their own soldiers shocks even those who have zero sympathy for the occupiers. First, they were sending tanks and IFVs into heavy fire. When those ran out, they started throwing assault troops in on motorcycles.
Of the 24 guys on motorcycles, only 2 of us made it, me and my comrade. They told us to go forward. I said, there's just 2 of us, we should wait for the others. But they said, just get there, secure the position, and that's it.
But the tactic in 2026 is pairs of 2 soldiers moving on foot with a 30-minute gap between groups, walking straight into Ukrainian drone strikes.
Those FPV drones are tearing us apart every day. They're killing hundreds of men every single day.
While Ukrainians are wiping out the first group, the second is already crawling up.
I'm done for. I'm f***ed. We're all f***ed. Those drones tore us apart. I don't know what to do. Mom, I love you.
This death carousel can run for months, but why won't the fighters just refuse?
If you don't follow orders, if you refuse your missions, I swear on my mother and my children, I'll personally shoot each and every one of you. You're all in this shit now, you f***ing animals. All of you, except that one man. The rest, animals.
But being the good soldier in your commander's eyes guarantees absolutely nothing if someone decides to save their own life when the situation becomes hopeless.
Look at these 2 cowards. They abandoned their post. Guys like this need to be taught a lesson.
Beatings, pits, unofficial prisons, extortion. These are just some of the tools the Russian army uses to force soldiers to march obediently to their deaths. Refusal can also mean death.
The commander ordered the senior in our group that if I made one wrong move, they were to zero me out.
Zero out is soldier slang in the Russian army for killing someone. That's exactly why they're willing to surrender. Russian commanders hate this. It's simpler for them if the man just dies. So before an assault, fighters are briefed on how to kill themselves if capture becomes a threat.
This is not a joke. These are the several ways I'm supposed to kill myself if capture becomes a threat.
Some of them actually take that final step. In soldier slang, that act is called Putin's last kiss. But some of them make the smart call.
If you don't do anything stupid, you stay alive.
Who knows, maybe some of those Russian guys will want to pick up a weapon again. But this time against the Russian army. Maybe that will be the first act of their lives as free men.
Это священное оружие. В борьбе за свободу, независимость и светлое будущее своей Родины. Слава Украине!
Russians shooting at Russians, then taking them prisoner. Is this treason? A mutiny? No. This is the reality of 2026. That's exactly what this video is about.
I believe Putin's power needs to be torn down. I don't want to run from it. I want to hit back. I pick up a rifle and I fight. I pick up a mortar and I fight. It's that simple. You can begin, understood? Plus,
A Russian machine gunner is bringing chaos and terror. But on the other side, there are also Russians. A Russian grenadier cranks up the pressure. The Russians on that side need to understand they're going to get wiped out either way. Almost all of them are dead men walking.
I want to remind you that you bought a one-way ticket. Back home, nothing's waiting for you except torture.
Russian units operating within the Ukrainian army first appeared on the battlefield in 2022. These were mostly Russian civilians who decided to fight against Putin's regime. We'll talk about those sent by Russian intelligence services at the end, but we'll start with those who came by their own calling. In that first wave of volunteers, most were civilians with a strong civic backbone. They'd always been against Putin, so they decided to fight on Ukraine's side.
Coming here, I lost everything I had in St. Petersburg, but I'm here because my family and I cannot accept the crimes Putin has smeared us with.
But how were they received by Ukrainians, given what the Russian army was doing on occupied territory?
The first time I showed up at the border, they told me, no, get lost. We don't need you here, we'll manage without you. In the end, it was basically, buddy, either we put you in the ground right now, or you get the hell out of here.
The Ukrainian reaction is understandable. Russia is unleashing a nightmare on occupied territory.
The Russian army commits crimes not only in Ukraine. I served until 2008. I was in Georgia and Chechnya. The Russian army did the same things there. That's why I decided back then that the army and I had no business being together.
There were quite a few guys like him. So Ukrainian command worked out a framework under which volunteers from Russia could join the ranks of the Ukrainian army. Volunteers from other countries typically go into combat units. Russians are no exception. But there is one difference.
For every minute late, the punishment is 100 burpees.
Harsh, but this isn't discrimination because of a Russian passport. It's a specific training protocol.
Man, the training is brutal. I've never seen anything like it in the Russian army.
But it's offset by the knowledge and skills each recruit walks away with. The thing is, Russian volunteer units are not your ordinary army outfit. They operate under the direct command and coordination of the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine's Ministry of Defense. After all, they are citizens of the aggressor state. Russian volunteers go through a strict vetting process by Ukraine's military intelligence and security structures. The screening includes background checks, contact reviews, checks for ties to Russian intelligence services, in-depth interviews about motivation, psychological testing, and medical exams.
They sat me down in a chair, hooked up the wires, and asked me things I didn't expect. Not, are you loyal? They already assumed that. They wanted to know if I could kill, if I could watch someone die and keep moving. I passed. I'm still not sure how I feel about that. And then become training. Nobody told me that this would be the hardest part. Training runs 6 to 8 weeks. Our job is to give every fighter everything he needs to become a real operator.
This is where real Apex operators come out of. In reality, volunteers from Russia, Ukraine, the United States, or Colombia share one thing in common. They want a hard fight. That's what it comes down to. Nobody wants to sit in a trench waiting for the enemy to show up. Nobody wants to be pushing papers at a headquarters. Born warriors crave that extreme intensity, liters of adrenaline, and the kind of emotional shock that breaks most people. But the war in Ukraine stuns even those types. Our channel has a whole series of videos where volunteers from different countries talk about their experiences and what this war has done to them. But right now, we're focusing on the Russians.
Yeah, the first fight, that was a hell of a mission. First, the first assault platoon went in with some adjacent units and armor. I was in the second assault platoon, held in reserve. By day 3, it was our turn.
An assault is nothing but chaos and gunfire. Rounds and shrapnel whipping past your head, smoke burning your eyes. And it's almost impossible to tell friend from enemy. That's why assaults always cost you people.
I've got wounds with consequences that stay with me, but it's a hell of a job.
The number of ideologically driven people born for war is limited in any society. But the number of Russians fighting on Ukraine's side has grown by tens of times compared to the first months of the invasion. The new arrivals in 2026. Who are these people? Are there moles among them, sent on a mission by Russian intelligence services?
Personally, I came here to avenge my fallen brothers.
Getting out of Russia to Ukraine has gotten a lot harder because of the FSB's operations. Guys are being tracked. FSB officers conduct interrogations at the border, crack phones and tablets, check contacts and messenger histories. And not just the guys, the women too.
Everyone here is completely off their rocker. Among us, there are guys who crossed the border through minefields, then walked up to a Ukrainian cop and said, "Hey, I want to join the Legion of Free Russia."
But there's another path into the Ukrainian army's ranks.
I served in Russian GRU Special Forces, and I hold a Crimson Beret. I was deployed to Syria twice. That's where I understood that Russia does not care about its soldiers. When they called me up for the war against Ukraine, I already wanted no part of it. When they sent me on a combat mission, I put my weapon down and just waited to be taken prisoner. Now I'm a volunteer and a machine gunner.
Drop a comment below. Do you support the decision of a person to fight against the army of their own country when that army is committing crimes? Or write what you think about this video. Hit like and subscribe to our channel because your support is what drives us to keep making new videos. And in these playlists, you'll find the most intense Russian army assaults from the war in Ukraine. From the siege of Kyiv in 2022 to the assault on Mala Tokmachka that has been going on for over 1,500 days. A Ukrainian artillery crew has 45 seconds. That's the window between firing and dying. The time it takes Russian counter-battery radar to triangulate a position, process the data, and put a return strike in the air. 45 seconds to pack, move, and disappear into the darkness before the world ends where they're standing. The gun they're working around was built before their grandfathers were born. No hydraulic autoloader, no digital fire control. They're doing this by hand, the same way men did it in 1944, swinging the barrel, setting the elevation, ramming the shell home. And the moment the round leaves the barrel, they're already moving. Because the flash was small, the sound didn't carry far. And those two facts, those two ancient analog facts about a weapon designed when horses still pulled artillery, are the only reason this crew has a chance of seeing morning. This is the paradox no defense contractor will put in a brochure. The most technologically saturated war in human history is being fought, and in key moments, decided by weapons old enough to be in a museum. And the reason isn't simply that Ukraine ran out of options. It's that in a war of pure attrition, where every shell is counted and every crew is irreplaceable, the oldest gun in the room is sometimes the hardest one to kill. Analysts at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington have called it bluntly. Ukraine has proven that artillery is still the king of battle. Not drones, not hypersonic missiles. Artillery. Enter the M101. This howitzer first appeared in prototype form in 1927. Its original carriages were designed to be pulled by horses. Read that again. Horses. By the time the updated truck-mounted version entered service in 1939, it had already been in development for over a decade. By any measure of modern defense procurement, this weapon is an antique, and yet Ukrainian artillery crews love it. Here's why. The M101 weighs approximately 2,260 kilograms, light enough to be towed by a standard Humvee or any large off-road vehicle. On a battlefield saturated with drone surveillance, weight is survival. Heavy systems need heavy transport. Heavy transport leaves tracks, burns time, attracts attention. The M101 doesn't care about any of that. But the real secret is in the flash and the sound. Ukrainian artillerists have described how the 105mm M101 produces remarkably little muzzle flash when fired. And its report, the sound of the shot, doesn't carry far. Modern counter-battery radar systems hunt for muzzle flash. Acoustic sensors triangulate the sound of a firing position. In daylight, this matters. In darkness, it can mean survival. The operational principle on this front is called shoot and run. Fire, relocate, survive. The M101's combination of lightweight and acoustic discretion makes it one of the most effective tools available for that tactic, with a practical range of around 11 kilometers. The carriage on one filmed example had holes from shrapnel in its frame, evidence of the density of the counter-battery fight. The gun itself kept working. But the M101 isn't even the most unexpected artillery story in this war. That distinction belongs to a shell. The 2S7 Pion is the heaviest self-propelled artillery system in Ukraine's inventory. Soviet-built, massive, firing 203mm rounds to a maximum range of 48 kilometers. It can reach deep behind Russian lines from positions well inside Ukrainian-controlled territory. It is, in the right conditions, a strategic asset. There was just one problem. Ukraine was running out of ammunition for it. The 203mm caliber is not NATO standard. It is not widely produced in the West. Sourcing shells for a Soviet gun in the middle of a European war is not a logistics problem with obvious solutions. Until someone checked a warehouse, the M106 is a 203mm artillery shell developed by the United States during World War II. Originally designed for the M1 howitzer, a system officially designated the M115 and decommissioned in 1962. These shells had been sitting in storage, gathering dust, for decades. They fit the Pion perfectly, so Ukraine found itself in the surreal position of loading American World War II ammunition into a Soviet-era self-propelled gun to fire at a Russian army in 2026. The shell was older than the weapon that fired it. And it gets stranger. Analysts discovered that Russian forces are also using M106 shells, apparently obtained through Iran, which received them as part of American military aid during the Shah's era. Decades later, both sides in a 21st century European land war are burning through the same American ammunition stockpile from 1945. The shell doesn't care who pulls the lanyard. Then there are the mortar rounds. The M768A 160mm mortar round, fitted with the M734 electromechanical fuse, entered service in the United States in the 1980s. The fuse has a rated service life of 20 years. Ukrainian crews are fielding examples that are 40 years old. They work perfectly. The M734 offers 4 operating modes: proximity airburst, near-surface burst, impact, and delayed impact. If one mode fails to initiate detonation, the system automatically sequences to the next. It will keep trying until the round detonates, a design philosophy that treats redundancy not as a luxury, but as a baseline requirement. The Ukrainians call these munitions a luxury. Not because they're modern, because they're reliable. And then there are the cluster rounds. The DPICM, dual-purpose improved conventional munition, was last used by American forces in Iraq in 2003. Around 3 million units were sent to storage in 2008. They were considered surplus, problematic under international conventions, and quietly warehoused. In Ukraine, a single DPICM round does the work of dozens of conventional high-explosive shells. Its submunitions scatter across a kill zone of up to 300 meters, nearly 1,000 feet, on detonation. Against troops in the open, against vehicle concentrations, against the kind of massed infantry assault Russia deploys in its grinding meat grinder tactics. The math is brutal. One shell, hundreds of feet of destruction. The cost of production, 0. The rounds already exist. There is a problem that every modern military is being forced to confront, and no one has solved it elegantly. Cheap drones are everywhere on this battlefield. FPV systems that cost a few $100s to build. Reconnaissance UAVs off commercial production lines. Slowly evolving tactics pushing these systems into every gap in every defense. The modern answer to this problem is a surface-to-air missile, and the math is catastrophic. A state-of-the-art interceptor missile costs anywhere from $50,000 to several $100,000. The drone it's destroying cost $300. This is not a sustainable exchange rate. An enemy with access to cheap drone production can bankrupt any air defense system that fights this war with expensive interceptors. Ukraine found a different answer, and it came from 1960s Germany. The Gepard self-propelled anti-aircraft gun was developed in 1963. The Bundeswehr retired it from active service in 2010. When Germany transferred these systems to Ukraine, military analysts described them as obsolete surplus, better than nothing, but not the sophisticated solution the situation demanded. They were wrong. The Gepard carries twin 35mm automatic cannons and an MPD-2 radar with a range of approximately 15 kilometers. That radar, designed by Siemens, can track and discriminate targets with the kind of precision that makes it genuinely useful against small, fast, low-altitude threats. Exactly the profile of a combat drone. The Gepard doesn't fire a $100,000 missile. It fires a burst of 35mm rounds. The cost per intercept is approximately $100. Against a drone that costs $300, that math is finally workable. Against a Shahed, a much more expensive target, it's devastating. The Gepard has become one of Ukraine's primary tools for defending critical infrastructure against Russian drone swarms, and its combination of radar quality and ammunition economy has made it operationally indispensable. The weapon that was built to shoot down Soviet aircraft over West Germany in the Cold War is now protecting Ukrainian cities from 21st century drone attacks at $100 a kill. The Browning M2 heavy machine gun entered service in 1921. It fires a 12.7mm round at a rate of between 450 and 600 rounds per minute. It has been in continuous production in various configurations for over a century. Nearly 30 armies worldwide operate it or one of its direct derivatives. On this front, mobile Ukrainian teams, typically 3 personnel, operate Browning M2 positions specifically designed to intercept Lancets in their flight sector. The cost of engaging a target approximately $3 per round. A burst, $100 to $200. Against an asset that represents tens of thousands of dollars of Russian military investment, that exchange rate is ruinous for the attacker. The gun that first entered service when Warren Harding was President of the United States is now the most cost-effective counter-drone weapon on one of the most contested battlefields on Earth. Here's what this war has taught anyone willing to learn it. In the 21st century, as in every century before it, the thing that kills you on a battlefield is explosive force and fragmentation, not directed energy, not algorithmic targeting alone. Blast and shrapnel. It was true at the Somme. It was true at Fallujah. It is true in Donetsk. The weapons in this story work because the physics haven't changed. What has changed is the intelligence layer above them. Drone reconnaissance that finds the target. Satellite communications that transmit the coordinates. Encrypted fire control systems that route the call. All of that technology is doing its job. But the terminal act, the delivery of kinetic energy onto a target, is being accomplished by mechanisms designed before the invention of the transistor. Ukraine hasn't survived by abandoning the old for the new. It has survived by fusing them. A 100-year-old machine gun guided by a drone feed. A World War II shell fired from a Soviet gun, directed by GPS-corrected coordinates, at a Russian column identified by thermal satellite imagery. That's not a failure of modernization. That's a masterclass in it. Yes, your eyes are not deceiving you. A rifle from the 1950s is back in action in the Russo-Ukrainian War. The legendary FN FAL has entered yet another war. And today, we've got a genuinely gripping generational conflict ahead, even more dramatic than the day your mom hear your music taste. Why does the Ukrainian Armed Forces need the FN FAL? And in what situations can it still compete with AR-15-based rifles? For decades, the world considered battle rifles a relic of the past, too heavy, too powerful, too awkward for modern warfare. They were pushed out by lighter, faster, and more advanced platforms. Above all, the AR-15, which gave birth to the M16, the M4A1, and most popular civilian carbines. And Ukrainians relatively recently developed their own take on an AR-based rifle.
The UR-15 is our Ukrainian vision of the time-tested AR system.
So why has the FN FAL appeared on the battlefield again? Does this rifle have some secret advantage? Or maybe it's gone through a modern upgrade? First, let's briefly look at what the UR-15 and the FN FAL actually bring to the table. The UR-15 in 5.56 millimeters is actively replacing Soviet AKs in 5.45 millimeters, especially among Special Operations Forces and reconnaissance units.
The rifle is modular, modern, and accurate, but even having it in service, we still put very serious emphasis on marksmanship training.
The FN FAL, on the other hand, remains a bronzed monument that's very difficult to modernize. And should you even bother?
Overall, it was in service with 90 countries and took part in almost every armed conflict. Its recognition stands alongside the Kalashnikov and the M16, but for all its fame, today it's outdated. In modern warfare, it's not relevant. It's too heavy, too bulky, too uncomfortable. It fires a round that's simply too powerful for an infantryman. It's heavy, kicks hard, you can't carry much of it, and it's not widely available.
That too powerful round is a serious chunk of metal that during the Cold War was used to load machine guns.
It operates in 7.62 by 51, .308 Winchester, and that's a pretty powerful round. Despite being developed as a Springfield reduced version, it's still a full-power rifle machine gun cartridge. It's not an intermediate round like 7.62 by 39. It's not a low-impulse round like 5.56 NATO. It's a high-powered rifle machine gun cartridge. And accordingly, firing automatic from a relatively light rifle in 7.62 by 51 while holding it in your hands is problematic.
Well, the difference in ammunition is significant, which perfectly reflects the philosophy of weapon designers from different eras. But that's only the beginning. Ease of use is the foundation of effective employment. And the fire selector and safety play a critically important role here, as does your like under this video.
On the other side, we have a 3-position fire selector, single, automatic, and safe, which it won't engage unless the rifle is cocked.
So how different is this system on the FN FAL?
This is an old-school weapon, where the weapon doesn't adapt to you, you adapt to the weapon. And its major flaw, if you quickly switch the fire selector and it lands in the middle, it won't lock into single or burst fire, and you won't be able to fire a shot.
And to avoid drowning you in technical detail, let's look at these two from a user-friendliness standpoint.
The rifle's construction is modular. The unit receives the rifle with iron sights, pretty decent ones, but the shooter can, if desired and available, mount any compatible optic. For that purpose, a Picatinny rail is mounted on the upper receiver, and the handguard is held with the non-firing hand, the one that doesn't press the trigger.
And with the FN FAL, the firing hand situation has both a historical and a practical dimension.
The FN FAL, given its history, was called the right hand of democracy, the right hand of the free world. Keyword, right hand, exactly. If you're left-handed, if you shoot with your left, you're going to suffer. Although on the other hand, I've heard people say it's the left-hander's greatest fear. But practically speaking, if you're left-handed, there is a bit of an issue with magazine insertion. Because of this part here, you sort of have to, although you could just tuck it in like this.
Overall, it's obvious that comparing a 70-year-old rifle against a modern one isn't going to favor the former, and the FN FAL loses to modern systems. But Brazilian volunteers fighting within the Ukrainian armed forces see it differently. The thing is, the FN FAL was among the first rifles transferred to the Ukrainian armed forces by allies, and it did its job. In the forested terrain near Kreminna, where drones have a hard time operating, small arms still very much remain in the game. A group of International Legion fighters is holding a position under a wave of Russian attacks, and their weapons of choice are some rather exotic specimens. A static defensive position. Isn't that exactly where 7.62mm finds its purpose in the 21st century? Maybe these fighters have found the perfect role for their old rifles. So what actual advantages can the FN FAL offer on the battlefield? First, ease of maintenance. Some parts of the FN FAL are simply inaccessible to sand, dirt, and similar hazards, and field stripping the rifle is faster than the M4A1.
The firing pin and the recoil mechanism are located in the stock. If we strip it right now, you'll see there's no recoil mechanism here, no spring, nothing. Because all of that is back here in the stock. It doesn't get dirty, it's protected, but because of that, the stock is fairly, well, it's heavy.
Second, the aforementioned caliber, which the enemy really doesn't want to be on the receiving end of. Because when fighting moves into tree lines, trenches, and forested terrain, where the enemy constantly hides behind trees, earthworks, and light cover, a powerful round starts to make sense again. That's exactly why some foreign volunteers still keep using the FN FAL today. Not because it's better than the AR-15, but because modern warfare suddenly brought back the tasks that the battle rifle was originally built to solve. And the most interesting part here is that even the fighters who use the FN FAL don't try to make it into the perfect weapon. On the contrary, they understand its shortcomings perfectly. It's heavy, awkward, demanding of the shooter, but at the same time it has something that lighter systems sometimes lack: a sense of power and confidence in the shot, especially when engaging at distance or against targets in cover. So how would the UAR-15 perform under the same conditions? In a defensive battle in the forest, its advantages would be better rate of fire and lighter weight. But the UAR-15's true element is the assault. Modularity lets you bring the full toolkit, from thermal imagers to laser aiming devices for night fighting. The forest becomes a hunting ground for recon troops and special operators armed with the M4A1 or similar assault rifles. The generational gap really shows when you need to work with a red dot, a flashlight, and a strobe. Special operators clear positions and sweep out the enemy with their weapon operating on pure muscle memory. An almost intuitive feel for the rifle that's very difficult to achieve with the FN FAL. But the FN FAL was designed in a completely different era. Back then, there were no thermal imagers, no widespread use of red dots, no concept of night infantry, which today has become the norm for modern warfare. And you feel that in absolutely everything. The weight, the balance, the ergonomics. Even a simple magazine swap is slower and less intuitive. And the powerful 7.62 NATO round, once its biggest advantage, now creates problems: heavy recoil, smaller ammunition load, greater shooter fatigue. Especially in a prolonged fight. Right now, it's more of an exotic tool for defensive combat with some interesting features.
On some rifles, you could mount rifle grenades. There was an option to fire them, but the whole process is too complicated. Even compared to the GP25 underbarrel grenade launcher that fits on an AK pattern weapon, it's more practical. You don't have to change anything, reconfigure anything, or load any special ammunition. Also, you can't use just any grenades here, only the ones specifically developed for this rifle by the Belgians. Only those grenades, that's impractical. It takes too much time, too many actions.
Despite its age though, this weapon is still fighting. Not many designs can boast that kind of longevity and durability. Among hyper-advanced and ergonomic rifles, you can still spot the good old FN FAL. And that's perhaps the main paradox of modern warfare. Technology races forward at a furious pace, but war itself keeps dragging old solutions back into the light. Battle rifles too have unexpectedly found their niche. A small one, a very specific one, but a very real one. And yet modern warfare has shown not a return of battle rifles, but rather the limits of the AR platform's universality. Because despite all of the FN FAL advantages, the AR-15 and its derivatives remain the primary weapon of modern infantry today. Not because of power, but because of versatility. They adapt better to night combat, optics, suppressors, and the modern small unit tactics that define this war. The irony is that both systems were born at almost the same time. But one became a symbol of the past, and the other, a symbol of modern warfare. Today we came to visit the 44th Separate Mechanized Brigade, and we're going to tell you about this beauty right here. This is the Polish Rosomak APC. The guys fighting in it will talk about how it performs in combat conditions, its strengths and weaknesses. You were also in Poland, right?
Yeah, we trained there.
I'm curious, did you have any experience operating machines like this before?
No.
You never served in the army before?
No, I didn't serve.
No IFVs, nothing like that?
First time I ever saw one, honestly.
And what was your civilian profession?
Tractor driver, agricultural machinery operator.
Classic story. All tractor drivers end up either in tanks or IFVs. So how different is it from a tractor? Modern tractors are pretty advanced now, right?
Of course.
What kind were you working on?
A K8 Holland.
Ah yeah, those are solid tractors.
American-made imported machinery.
So for you this wasn't really difficult?
Not difficult. Automatic transmission there, automatic transmission here. Same thing. Though of course the size feels unusual. You can only really see the left side clearly. The right side, not so much.
How do you get used to the size? Running obstacle courses, parallel parking drills.
But overall it's a good vehicle. Solid. Fast too.
Can it really push 120 kilometers per hour? Around 75 miles an hour? That's gotta feel terrifying in this thing, right?
Hard to stop it. It's still 22 tons, around 48,500 pounds. Bushmaster aircraft type cannon, 200 rounds per minute.
Awesome piece of kit, huh?
The cannon's excellent, fast. Inside the turret it sounds quiet to me, outside not so much. It has two separate ammunition feed paths. One feed chute here, another one there. So you can switch between them. If you load HE rounds in one, you can load armor-piercing rounds in the other.
So you can mix it up?
You can, absolutely, absolutely. That's actually one of its advantages. If it's loaded with HE rounds, you don't have to wait through every 5th round or whatever. You just switch sides, and that's it. Two different ammo types, ready to go instantly.
This is the troop compartment of the Rosomak APC. There are 8 seats here for soldiers. They dismount through these doors. If something happens to the doors and they jam or whatever, there are also 2 hatches up top, so you can climb out through the roof of the armored vehicle. This is how it opens, and the guys climb out. So what were your first deployments like? What did they teach you?
We started from the basics. First, for several days, we learned how to open these doors. It's not as simple as it sounds.
What's difficult about it?
Well, damn, first you've got to undo all these catches, open them properly, line up all these locks. It's not that easy.
So you might want to get out and still not manage it.
Exactly. Or maybe you won't even get in. We started with the basics, with familiarization. Then every day, more work with the doors. After that, we slowly started learning the turret, at least figuring out what's where.
What kind of missions is it best suited for in the conditions of modern warfare here?
Fast engagements. Maybe not even full battles, more like ambushes. When we rolled out, we'd get target coordinates. We'd move in and look for a position where we could set up and work effectively. Usually, we'd pop out at night, complete the mission, tear apart either a house or some enemy group, depends on the situation in this war. Then quickly pull back out, fast. The cannon's high rate of fire, 200 rounds per minute. We'd hit them with it, and they didn't even understand what hit them or where it came from.
These two propellers on opposite sides of the APC. That's the amphibious function, meaning this APC can cross water obstacles. Here's the waterline mark. This is how deep it sits in the water. Speed in water is around 10 kilometers per hour, about 6 miles an hour. In Poland, when our guys were training on these APCs, they were shown how the Rosomak swim, but in our conditions they still haven't used that capability in combat. So it sinks into the water up to this line?
Yeah. It settles in and floats well. The nose doesn't dip underwater. There are bow vanes that lift up in front, plus additional fins get installed. It basically turns into a boat.
And what about actually swimming it across?
Don't know?
You never tried from here?
Well, yeah, from here you'd have to swim it. But honestly, trying to cross water in this thing is rough as hell. Like the Poles told us, better not to swim it. Better not. Lower the tire pressure and you can cross terrain instead. It hates mud though.
You've already had to drive through mud before, right?
Had to.
And can it quickly lower the tire pressure and prepare for that?
Not super quickly, of course.
So you need to know your route ahead of time?
Well, you're not driving more than 20 kilometers, around 12 miles, on deflated tires. That's only for crossing mud. The wheels deflate in pairs too. 2 here, 2 there.
The most protected part of this APC is the frontal armor. According to specifications, it can withstand 14.5 millimeter rounds. The sides are rated against 7.62 millimeters. That's what the technical data says. So, can you talk about how this machine actually behaves in combat conditions?
Mostly we worked against distant targets. We'd just drive to a position, unload on the target, then get out. In Vovchansk, it got a little closer to their positions. On my first deployment, I rolled out to within 400 meters, around 1,300 feet. There we cleared out a bridgehead near the river, scattered their infantry, and our guys crossed over and secured positions. On the second deployment, we rolled up to around 150 meters, roughly 500 feet from them. They had taken cover in a 2-story building. They dug into that building, and we had to cover the withdrawal of our guys. We tore that house apart too, but our guys all made it out safely. We also rolled out to support our sappers, transported pontoon sections on it. Then at night, the guys built pontoon crossings, and we evacuated our wounded with it too. We've already run into drones more than once. Drones chased us too, even while parked in holding positions. The vehicles were getting hit. They hunt us, damn it. They're constantly after us. They chased us down, hit these machines. Thank God all the crews survived. The vehicles get repaired and go right back into battle.
That's the most important thing. It means they're doing their job, keeping the crew alive. Today we're working with the 40th Marine Coastal Defense Brigade, and we're going to talk about this BVS-10, a Swedish-British armored personnel carrier. Specifically the medevac modification. The guys only received it very recently, and right now, they're preparing it for its first combat deployment.
I still haven't seen difficult conditions for it. Even take the tank track. We got there after rain, everything was mud, and honestly, it just didn't care. It was moving through the mud at 60 kilometers per hour, around 37 miles per hour, and doing it steadily. We didn't really find obstacles there that could stop it.
What about steep climbs?
No issues at all. We'd stop right in front of the incline, it would start moving, and there was no wheel spin, nothing.
Did you know you were going to get a vehicle like this?
No.
So it was a surprise?
Not exactly a surprise, but when I went to receive them, I was actually the senior representative during the pickup. My first impression was, why do I even need this thing? What am I supposed to do with it? I honestly had no idea what it was in general. But then we started driving it around there, spent some time figuring out what was what, and overall I ended up liking the vehicle.
Did you have any experience operating combat vehicles before this?
No, before this, I was a long-haul truck driver. I spent 7 years driving across Ukraine, and I'd never even seen tracked vehicles or equipment like this before. But we figured out the YPR 765, and we figured this one out too. This one has an automatic transmission. It's got a steering wheel like a regular car, and overall it's actually pretty easy to handle. Its maneuverability is seriously powerful. As for cross-country capability, even in this little forest here, it feels very confident.
This Viking is equipped with a Turkish Canik M2 machine gun. .50 caliber, 12.7 millimeters, with an effective firing range of 1.8 kilometers, about 1.1 miles. Basically, it's an equivalent to the Browning that everybody already knows.
What we're looking at right now is the medevac version. It can drive right up to the positions, we've got a machine gun, we can return fire if needed, load up the wounded, turn around, and get out. Any kind of clay, mud, water obstacle, none of that is really an obstacle for us. If you compare it to some Soviet-era equipment, that stuff already wouldn't make it in there because of the weight and all the other limitations. But this vehicle can get into any difficult conditions, pick up its wounded, and leave. We also have an assault transport modification. It can get practically anywhere, bring in troops, deliver food and supplies, transport personnel, even evacuate wounded using the assault vehicle version. All of that is possible. It has a really wide range of things it can do. Everything for the combat medic has been thought out. You can see here, these pockets are for medical supplies, and there are mounts for IV drips. Aid can start being given immediately. The second the wounded man gets loaded into the vehicle, medical treatment can begin right away.
The hull is armored, right?
Yeah, it can withstand 7.62 rounds. Its armor class is designed more for fragments and assault rifle fire, but it handles 7.62 no problem. And when it hits a mine, there's a chance it won't even trigger it. That's because the pressure load on the tracks is minimal. Oh, they even came up with an electric kettle. This little box right here, that's an electric kettle. With a tap and everything. Yep, electric kettle.
That's awesome.
And there's another identical kettle inside the compartment too. Though honestly, we still haven't figured out how to use it yet, but we already translated the instructions. It's an electric kettle. That's basically all you really need to know. Where to switch on the main power and where the ignition is. There are no keys in the vehicle. That's all the knowledge you need. Everything's basically like a regular car. Watch the engine temperature so it doesn't overheat, and keep an eye on the fuel level so you don't run dry.
What else can you control from here? Weapon systems? Smoke launchers, maybe?
Smoke launchers. Here's the smoke control panel. Left, right, left.
So you can activate them from here?
Yeah, the passenger can activate them from that side, or the driver can reach down here and activate them too. There's heating for the side mirrors and the windshield, hazard lights, brightness adjustment for the instrument lighting, lights, door locking with electric locks. You can completely seal the whole vehicle from inside. Fog lights, windshield washer, cabin heating.
What has to be done to prepare this vehicle for a combat mission? What exactly did you do here? What did you check? How do you get it ready?
At this point, we've checked all the oils, all the coolant fluids, the washer fluid too. It has windshield washers, so we checked that the wipers are working properly. We've now mounted the weapon system onto it, installed the machine gun, lubricated it, checked everything. Ammunition loadout will be added for the weapon as well. After that, the combat medic will organize all his medical supplies, whatever he needs for the mission, and that's it. Then the vehicle will be ready to roll out.
Right now, we're inside the second compartment of the Viking. This is exactly where the wounded are transported. There are 2 stretchers here, and if you lay something down here, you could fit another wounded man as well. We're currently driving along a dirt road. It's not shaking that badly in here. You could even perform some medical procedures on the wounded while moving. Now, trying to drink tea on the move from that kettle. That's not exactly convenient. It'll spill everywhere. But little details like that, those almost cozy touches, they show that the developers actually thought about crew comfort. And that's really cool. This is another modification of the BVS-10 Viking. This one is the assault transport version. Right now, the guys are welding on mine protection systems. Oleksiy, can you explain what exactly this is for?
This is going to be protection against anti-personnel mines, specifically the Leopardstock mines. I don't know what people call them officially, but everybody knows them. Those little plastic things. They're very light, but they'll still tear your foot apart if you step on one. This mine clearing rig is going to consist of 2 sections. One section will have chains with weighted loads attached, so they'll scatter the mines around. The second section will be rubber, basically pushing the mines off to the sides. Those mines don't weigh much anyway. One mine weighs up to about 100 grams, around 3.5 ounces, so that'll be enough to shove them aside. As you can see here, the road wheel is covered in plastic, and the tracks themselves are rubber. If we hit a couple of mines, the tracks will start showing damage marks, and sooner or later they'll tear apart. I don't know what percentage of effectiveness this system will actually have, but still it should at least extend the service life of the tracks a little.
How else can a Viking assault vehicle like this be modernized besides mine protection?
For the assault version, you can already start adding stronger anti-drone protection. Weld something onto the roof, some kind of netting, because this vehicle has a different role than the medevac version. Here you've got to protect the gunner better. At minimum, install anti-drone mesh. The troop compartment itself also needs to be covered with some kind of netting. This is our first Viking. We simply don't have operational experience with them yet. With the YPRs, we already had combat experience in Toretsk. We more or less understand what to expect from them, what needs to be added. But with these, there are still difficulties because we haven't fought in them yet. Once the vehicles start going out on missions, we'll see. We'll immediately start welding things on, modifying them as we go.
So, like in the medevac version, there are 2 stretchers for wounded personnel. But here you've got the troop compartment instead. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 rows, right? For 8 men?
Well, there's also supposed to be a separate 9th seat added, but 8 guys can sit in here completely comfortably.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today we've come to the 141st Separate Infantry Brigade, and today we're going to show you a Swedish legend. the Banvang 206, or as the troops call it, the Moose. People call it legendary, but what exactly makes it legendary? And what was it originally created for?
It was created during the Cold War years to move troops through the Alps. In terms of mobility, they built it extremely well. It has two modules, and both are powered. Both the front module and the rear module drive their own tracks. It's probably 99% more effective even than a Kozak. A ditch that stops a Kozak is already an obstacle for it. But as you can see, a trench isn't really an obstacle for this thing. It crosses it and moves through it like any tank or infantry fighting vehicle. Its one downside is that it has absolutely no armor at all.
I can see the tracks are pretty wide, and they're rubber. How does it handle off-road terrain?
Off-road, it handles itself beautifully. Metal tracks freeze over. In extreme cold, they crack like glass. But rubber stays elastic, so it doesn't crack the way metal does. Metal tracks also wear out faster. If you look closely, you can see the metal connectors here. They keep the track from slipping off. And it was also designed this way to help with flotation.
So it can actually float too, like an amphibious vehicle.
Yeah, it's pleasant to work with. A little noisy, sure, but it has its advantages. On dirt roads, it can hit speeds of 50 kilometers per hour, around 31 miles per hour. Mud or no mud, it keeps moving. It was built properly, built to last. It has a really interesting two-module design. Its maneuverability is really good. As for mobility, if the front module starts slipping, the rear module pushes it forward from behind. The rear stays on solid ground while the front is stuck in mud. The rear pushes it out, the front gets onto firm ground, and then it pulls the rear module through afterward. The vehicle's cross-country capability is honestly huge.
How many people can actually fit in here?
4 in the back, 2 in the front, steering wheel, everything's basically like an ordinary car.
The engine is located here in the middle.
Yeah, the engine's in the middle. It has an automatic 4-speed transmission, a Mercedes engine. These are the lights here: turn signals, bilge pump, rear drainage pump, and here we switch between fuel tanks.
Right now, we're inside the second module. About how many people can fit back here?
In the second module, you can fit around 12 people, for evacuation missions, for example, or for transporting troops and supplies to positions. You can use it for that too.
And what's its payload capacity?
The rear module has a payload capacity of 1,630 kilograms, around 3,600 pounds.
So if needed, you could transport ammunition loads in it. And fully loaded like that, it can still move through off-road terrain and swamps.
Yeah, it can. Its mobility is really good. Even carrying 1,630 kilograms, it still handles itself just fine.
For example, if you install stretchers here, then realistically, you could probably fit around 2 stretchers for evacuating critically wounded soldiers.
Yeah, you couldn't fit more than that in here, because the medics still need space to sit too.
And what's this thing here?
That's a water pump. If it crosses through water and some gets inside, this is used to pump the water back out.
So this extra one was installed, basically, as a backup. Overall, how difficult is it to maintain?
Maintenance is easy because it's got a Mercedes engine. Any mechanic knows a simple diesel engine with a turbocharger. Track maintenance is also very easy. There are a few components where you need a specialist mechanic. Those parts get removed and taken to a specialist to rebuild or replace. But aside from that, pretty much any soldier who understands machinery even a little can step in and repair it. I don't really see any problem with it.
Can additional weapons be mounted onto it? Small arms or heavier weapons?
If needed, yeah. You can install a turret, mount a DSK or a Browning. Whatever kind of weapon the turret is designed for, that's what you can mount on it. Key to this position, there. The lights come on. Now turn it further, and it should start up.
Come on, little one. What's its fuel consumption?
60 liters per 100 kilometers, about 3.9 miles per gallon.
Honestly, it feels like even a kid could handle driving this thing. It may not be young anymore, but it still seems really effective. Pretty loud though, not gonna lie.
All right, now give it some throttle.
Misha, hold on tight. I still need my cameraman alive. Well then, ladies and gentlemen, this all-terrain vehicle may be old, but when needed, it can still be used by the military for transporting ammunition or evacuating the wounded. And for now, we're moving on.
Is there any armored vehicle that can drive over a TM mine and not blow up? Today, we're reviewing the Viking, used by Ukraine's 38th Marine Brigade.
Unit is called the BVS Viking 10. It's an infantry fighting vehicle, amphibious. It consists of two sections. The front holds the driver, commander, and gunner. The rear is for troops. The front part, engine, transmission, and drive system, weighs 5 tons. The rear weighs about 3.5 tons. It's mainly used to drop off troops and then pull them out. Armor is rated at level 4.
What does that stop?
Shrapnel, and it'll definitely stop 7.62 millimeter rounds.
Has it taken fire before?
There have been blasts, close but not direct hits, maybe a meter or two away. That can cause concussions. That includes the driver and gunner too. Minor concussions, but no life-threatening injuries. Vikings have been produced since 2006. This one came to Ukraine in 2023.
What's the crew size?
Driver, gunner, and commander. 3 people, plus 2 more seats in the back. Could be for a medic or whoever you need. But the core crew is 3.
Is the engine in the front?
Yep, up front.
What kind of engine?
Turbo diesel, inline 6. 6 to 7 liters. Automatic transmission. 6 forward gears, 1 reverse.
What's its top land speed?
On a highway, 70 kilometers per hour.
You've really driven it that fast?
Even hit 75. Pushed the speedo to the max.
What can I say? This Viking really hauls. Looks small, but it's got serious muscle.
Drives like a regular car, really easy to handle. I'm used to it like my own personal vehicle.
Since it's amphibious, it actually floats?
Absolutely. It swims at 5 kilometers per hour.
How deep does it sink when in water?
About 1.25 meters deep.
So that's like up to the windows?
Yeah, it swims using its tracks, no extra propeller.
The tracks look kind of unusual.
They're rubber.
Kind of toy-like, honestly.
Nah, rubber with a Kevlar layer. They're wide, makes mine blasts less likely to go off, reduces the chance of a detonation. Weight's more spread out, which helps if you roll over a mine, unlike the narrow tracks on BTRs or Motolihas, which concentrate the pressure. Here, the weight's distributed more evenly, less risk of triggering the mine.
So has that happened?
Yeah, once we did hit a mine head-on. The driver's legs got injured a bit, but no fatalities. That's thanks to the V-shaped capsule hull and double-layered armor in the crew compartment. You can't repair the tracks, they just get replaced. Power's sent to the rear section through a drive shaft. It's all-wheel drive.
So both front and rear tracks are powered?
Exactly.
But all this is exposed, no casing or protection. Why is that?
Well, when the vehicle turns, the two halves flex, one way, then the other. It's a moving joint. If it were rigid, sure, you could add armor, but it has to move constantly. And when it's in the water, those cylinders adjust the vehicle's tilt.
Horizontally and vertically?
Exactly.
But couldn't they make a rubber cover for that?
They could have. But clearly, the designers didn't think of that.
Seems like a weak point to me. Debris could get in there or something could break it, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a vulnerability. But the sections are only connected by cylinders. So if one gets damaged or flips, the other can still stand on its tracks as normal.
Wait, so it can twist and flip around?
Yep, and the vehicle keeps going. Just rotate it back into place. Nothing breaks.
Just pick it up and reset it?
Yeah,
And it weighs how much again?
3.5 tons. So, no, you're not lifting it by hand. You'll need gear for that.
And what's in that rear part? What's it for?
It's for carrying personnel, an assault squad heading to or returning from a mission.
And the back? Hatch or doors?
Doors. Big ones. Easy to use. When troops are in full gear, armor, packs, rifles, or machine guns, they can still load in and out easily. Quick in, quick out.
Any advice for infantry who are riding this to the front? What are they doing right or wrong?
It's 2.2 meters wide, 7.6 meters long. That's almost 8 meters. Pretty long. Drivers need to factor in the turning radius. That's critical, especially if the area is mined. You can't just spin this thing around on the spot. You'll need to back and forth or have room to maneuver.
How long does a full turn take?
A minute or two, then you're headed back. During that time, the gunner is covering the vehicle, and the driver gives audible signals to the rear compartment. There's an indicator light. If it's on, the rear doors are open. You don't need to get out and check. Sensors tell you everything. Once the light's on, that means troops are dismounting. Another signal might mean wounded are being loaded, or it's a personnel swap at the line. Once they're inside, doors close, light goes off. One click, locked. Now we unlock. And the turret rotates. Gunner's good to go. It fully rotates, 180 degrees.
Is it manual?
Manual. Just grab the lever, turn it left or right.
On most vehicles like this, the turret's not very protected. The armor's low, and if you're firing, your head's usually sticking out.
That's true, but hey, it's still something.
Your head?
I mean the armor. At least it's there. It gives you some cover.